Lockie.
Joseph?
Chris.
Catherine? Sarojana?
Tony. Julia.
Josh.
Ross.
Gilbert. Hank. Dean.
Hank. Jack?
Jack.
Marty.
Marty? And Bob.
Beautiful cat.
Off you go, Dan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
The amazing thing is there's no one snarling at each other,
Not yet.
fighting with each other. Everybody's pretty joyful and happy. And what does it tell you in the scripture? When two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And what is thy name? I am is my name. I am that I am. And isn't that right? Anywhere there's not that sense of presence, that beingness, that knowingness right now. And when that sense of presence is there, everybody's expressing it and recognizing it. It's a very joyful group. Instead of you're an arsehole and blah, blah, blah. It can get very nasty. But it doesn't have to be that way. Know the truth. And the truth will set you free. And I am is the way. It is the truth. It is the life. And I am that. Aren't you? Nobody's jumping saying, I'm not that. Why not? If you believed truly that you weren't that, you would. But nobody's disputing it. But a lot of us don't express it either. Because we probably still got that sense of presence, the fear, what they will think or what they will say. But it's brought you all together here, and there's nobody here that doesn't want to hear it. Otherwise you'd walk out of the room. But you haven't. So each and every one of us knows that. I am is the sense of presence. The awareness of being present right here, right now. And is there any one of you that can say, I am not? You can't. So when they say let it rest, and it's uncontrived singularity, or abide as that, or instead of moving away into the conceptual image, that there is other than that. Relax into it. See what happens. And some of you here already recognize it and know it, feel it. Others might be just looking into it. Different states, different stages. But there is nothing, no thing, that is not that. And innately you know it because you say, that's the chair, that's the space, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's you, that's me. You know innately that everything is that one essence or intelligence energy. Intelligence energy label up on it. Intelligence is knowing, not your intellect that knows this or that, but the very fact of being, knowing and loving to be. The life of you, that which is actual, not the conceptual. And you can't help but recognize. And the Buddha called it cognizing emptiness. And we think that cognizing, we cognize the emptiness. But it isn't. It's the emptiness itself that has that capacity. It's the emptiness that nothing can appear outside of that emptiness. And that's what Nisargadatta put it. My silence sings. My emptiness is full. So pointing at all silence, emptiness, intelligence, energy, whatever label you're looking to put on it, are all the one thing. Emptiness is form, the Buddha told you, and the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. But when we believe in the shapes and forms, it is poor me then, or unhappy me, or in me there's a good fellow having a bad trot. All the different concepts and words. And that's all that words are concepts, ideas, mental images. How many words were you born with? You say you were born. Can you remember your birth? You look at it, you realise you can't remember your birth. Why? Because you had no words. You didn't learn any words till the capacity of reasoning came upon you after you were a couple of years old, and you learnt words from your parents. But none of us realised then that the word wasn't the thing. We took the word to be real. When they told you that I am Bill or I am Bob, they put that label on you, and we believed it. But look at the word. Is the word the thing? Take the word water. Somebody asks for a drink of water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Will you drown in the word water? You can't. The word fire, can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself? Now look at I or me in that light. What is it? Is it I am this body? Or I am this mind? Or I am this person? Investigate and see. And that's what they tell us. Need to investigate. Because the false cannot stand up to investigation. Am I this body? Well, innately, I know that I'm not this body. I say my coat, my car, my house, my body. Which one's correct? Am I the house? You know you're not the house. Am I the coat? You're not the coat. Are you the body? Well, are you the body? This body's made up of elements. Just like the elements around you that you're not seeing, but knowing that they're there. The air, the fire, the water, the space. Investigate this body and you see that's all this body is. Take the air out of it. See how long there's going to be a body there. Take the water out of it. Take the fire. Separate yourself from the earth. Get out of space if you can. When you break it down and look at it, you're not this body of flesh and bones that appears to be there. That's just another appearance, like everything else in this manifestation seems to be so. It appears to be so. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. The definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So everything that's appearing in this body is what we phenomenally take on the word, put the belief of the word into it. But it's all the one and the same essence. A vibrating intelligence energy, the way it patterns forms. For a tree to be a tree, you know it's just an accidental way it's happening, or a flower that comes onto the tree or the fruit. Applies is suffused with intelligence, this body, with all the knowledge that's in each and every different pattern expressing. Imply it's suffused with an intelligence energy, life. That's what intelligence energy is, life. And they tell you that in the scriptures, there is only life. There is no body who lives a life. We think we are this body and the body doing the living. It's not. The life is suffusing, patterning, shaping and forming in the body. And everything else in this manifestation is life. As Nisargadatta tells us, there is only life. There is no body, mind or anything else that lives a life. But he says life lives on life. And out of life, more life comes. It's all coming from the one essence. Investigate that and see if it's true or not. Where'd you come from? Go back and look, you see you came from your parents, your father and your mother. The life of your parents. Where did they come from? The life of their parents. So out of life, more life has come. That animating life essence in your father, enabled in that pattern like a microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. But that sperm was suffused with life. It knew what to do. And the same with your mother, another microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form in the mother. And that sperm and ovum knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. Just it wasn't something accidental floating around there. It knew what to do. Attach itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm, knowing what to do, swam to the ovum and penetrated the ovum. Those two became one. Doubled and formed a little embryo. The little fetus is what you are today. What could you do about it then? Nothing. Do you think you can do anything about it now? Did you grow that body with the mind, with the thought? Is it breathing you? Is it beating your heart? Or is it that life essence that's doing it all? And when Christ told you, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life, people thought he was talking about himself and big note to himself, to make himself. It's not. It's that sense of presence. The knowing that you are. Anybody who's not aware of being present right here and now, what's that sense of presence that is the life of you and expresses as the thought I am? In other words, if it hadn't learnt these words, how could we even say I am? Now the cat or the dog or the bird or the animal hasn't got any words. They know that they are, but they're not putting any descriptions on themselves. I am this body, I am this person. They're just functioning naturally as that animal function. The life in the seed that put in the ground and the warmth and water and that in the atmosphere penetrates and expands it and sprouts it, the life that already is in it. And it grows into a tree or a flower, but before it, the leaves come upon it, then the branches and all the rest of it come on, then the flowers and the fruit. Doesn't that imply it's suffused with intelligence or life? The same with these patterns there. Keep recognising and realising that life essence that you are and see the difference to what it is that I believe this, that and the other. But I'm a good fellow having a bad trot, or this is happening to me. And there's fear, there's anger, there's depression, there's guilt. All these concepts come about that are separating this reality that I am into the believed in conceptual entity, the person. And I tell you that the person is not the reality. Where does the word person come from? Comes from the ancient Latin persona, the mask. And the mask is the conceptual image, the image of concepts, words, what they tell you. You're Bill or you're Jane or you're so-and-so. And they tell you those words. We don't investigate to see that the word's not real. We believe it. Somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am this person. And we suffer accordingly. Because the person is the believed in separate entity. They tell you in the scriptures, it is one life, it is one being, it is one intelligence energy. Everything is that one, without a second, without any other. The second means two. And me and the other is dualism. So we are absolute, the pure intelligence energy. Take on the idea we're separate, we're living from the perception, the believed in concept that I am a separate entity, that I need to become one with this, because the scriptures tell me you need to become one with it. Not realizing that you are already that one. Becoming implies a future time. Is there such a thing as time? Have we ever investigated time and had a look at it? That's quite simple when you do. Is there a past if I don't think about it? Is there yesterday? Yesterday is past. Can I go back and live yesterday? I can recall parts of it, but I can't recall it all, and I certainly can't recall the back to when I first learnt the words. There could be a vague memory of some of the things, but not of everything. And what can't be remembered is not there anymore. I can anticipate and imagine what's going to be tomorrow, but anticipation and imagination are talking about some future. So past and future are concepts. What's left? Presence. What is this presence? It's here, it's now, it's spontaneously functioning. It's a spontaneous happening. Got no duration, like past and future time have got duration. Anticipation and imagination is future. Anticipation and imagination. You're not living in the future. The past is dead. The future hasn't arrived. Anyone who is not present and aware right now. Nobody's jumping up and saying, oh, I'm not present and aware, are you? Why? Because actually you know you are present. But how many concepts and ideas and thoughts are going on in that head? Telling you about this that happened and that happened, the story of my life. And that's all that my life has become, a story. And the story has a beginning and an ending. So it means we're relating to the past and anticipating the future. But what is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? I can't say anything at all about it. There's silence, seeming emptiness, no thoughts, but the life hasn't disappeared. There's a pure sense of being there, a sense of awareness. You can't say what awareness is because it's another word, it's another concept. But you know, without that awareness, if you were unaware, you couldn't say anything at all. You couldn't lift a finger, couldn't feel anything, you couldn't taste anything, touch or smell anything. So that awareness is the very life essence that you are. Not the person, not me that's got to do this and needs to do that, needs to think about this or change that. It's just what is. What's going on here? Breathing's happening. I didn't think about that breath I just took. I didn't think about expanding or contracting my heart. Heart was beating. But air was breathing. Air was breathing in it, coming in and out, breathing to happen. Life was living. The living was happening. It was a spontaneous beingness. And being is not what was. It's not what will be. It's being. The ing is something that happened. Being is not wasing or not will be. We call ourselves human beings. So the beingness is there, but now we're applying to this pattern, shape and form which we call human. Human beings. And when we've got this idea in that beingness, there's this greater power. It's got to be better than what we are. We're having all this suffering and fear. So a God or a higher power, a greater being. So we call God the supreme being. It's supreme. It's better than what we are. Well, what if I cancel out that term human and cancel out the word supreme? Can I cancel out the word being? Try it and see. See if you can say, I am not. I am not, I am not, I'm not. You can say it a million times. But what is enabling it to be said? Just spontaneously knowing it. So you can't negate your beingness. And as I say, when you realise being is not becoming and not will be, stay with that beingness. See where it takes you. Realise it's always and ever been there. All the thinking, concepts and ideas, feelings, thoughts, emotions have seemingly obscured it. Seemingly obscured it. It's been the back of it all. It's still there. And they explain that in the scriptures. They say it's being, knowing and loving to be. No one there now that's not being, and there's no one there that's knowing, not knowing that beingness. You can't say I'm not. So we're all loving to be that. We don't want to be dead right now. Don't they tell you that God is love? The so-called God we're looking for. If God is love, the love must be God also. But we separate those two even. Oh, I love this. Not realising it's the one essence, or if you like to use that term, God. I don't use it myself because it causes too much trouble for me. But the recognition that that word is trying to express that everything is that. But they put a term on it and give it a shape and form and a belief that it's something greater than what I am. But try and cancel out the I amness, the knowing that you are. Believe is not the actual. We take on all these beliefs. I believe this, I believe that. And you look up your dictionary, the definition of belief, and it tells you a belief is the unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. It means I haven't worked it out. I haven't tried to see what I am. I haven't questioned it. So I take on the idea that I am this person because that's the only way I can take it on. When I learn words, parents tell me I'm little Billy or little Jane or whatever. I immediately say I am Jane or Bob or Bill or whatever your name might be. So we put the label on. So when somebody asks you who you are, you'll say I am Bill or Jane, whatever your name might be. So just realise that's just a label. Didn't say, if you'd recognise really, just say, I am the absolute. I am the reality. Because that is all there is. It is absolute. They tell me that clearly. It's one without a second. It's not two. Two is separation. Two is relativity, relative to. Something is relative to the other. And they say it's only the one essence that patterns, shapes and forms and experiences as everything. And as I say, before the meeting started, everybody was jovial and happy. It was that one essence expression through each of you. There wasn't much time for hatred or despair or guilt in that, was there? Each one was expressing what was coming up naturally and effortlessly. But we pick up again out of habit. We're told we're separate, we reinforce that belief, and it appears to be separate. What's your next thought going to be? Have a look and see. There's nobody here can tell me what the next thought's going to be. I ask you, you'll say, I don't know. You don't know, but a thought will come up. And we claim it, I think. And that's the problem. We've claimed that thought, the thought has come up spontaneously and naturally. Now it's I think. Claimed by I. I is the conceptual image I have about myself. And so from then on, that's what we're relating to, until, if we're lucky, something will turn us to look a bit deeper into it. This is not good enough. There's still the fear and anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame, remorse is still there. What is this I am that's taking it on board? Is that what I really am? It tells me again in the scriptures, I am that. That's the great mantra. Everything is that. And you know that because you say, that's the chair, that's the table, that's the tree, that's the flower. Already you know it's all that, which to discriminate it, we put it on these words we've learnt. Otherwise, if we didn't have these words and discriminate for, what could we say about anything? That you're that. This is that. I am that. Everything is that. But the discrimination lies in the labels, the concepts. And they tell us again, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any of these concepts. It is the perfection. It is absolute. What can you add to absolute? You realise that if you add anything to it, it won't be absolute. What can you take away from absolute? If you took anything away from it, it wouldn't be absolute. Perfection is the same. You can't add anything more to the perfect. If you take something away from it, it wouldn't be perfect. They give it to you in one sentence there. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any of these mental concepts, which are thoughts. A concept's just a word, a mental construct added onto it. So now when somebody asks you and you say, I am Bob, or I am the Australian, I am a good fella, or I am this, instead of saying, I am the absolute, and you can't very well tell everyone you're the absolute, or they'll put you in the funny farm, but you can't add anything to absolute, and you can't take anything away from absolute. If you could add anything to it, or take anything away from it, it wouldn't be absolute. And have a look at that. If you know that you are the absolute, and it's all there is, can there be anyone superior to you? We've got this idea now, or he's much better than I am, or she is, or that's much greater than I am, or that's not so great. So there's going to be nothing superior to you. Can there be anything inferior to you? So you wouldn't look down on the other person, so-called other. And what would you want from anybody else if you know that you are the absolute? there was nothing that you would need, because the Absolute contains it all. But how can you unlock it, or separate it, or believe it? So it needs to try and grasp it. You can't grasp the concept of Absolute. But allowing it to be as it is, you'll see there's a change. As a natural expression comes about. Everything falls into place. And you've had taste of that. You've had brief moments of that. And you'll say to yourself, well, how did that happen? Oh, I don't know. And then you carry back into the old habit pattern. Instead of investigating a little bit further, if I look again and investigate, was it this person, was it this separate entity that did anything? Can the person do anything? The thought I think has become the thinker. So the thinker is the thought. But can a thought think? You realise the thinker is the thought, and there's nothing other than thinking. I must be the thinking. I can't be the thinker. Now the thought has come up. Now the thought has been saying the opposite. I'm thinking this thought. So it's been divided. But what if the thinker is the thought I think? Which it is when you look at it. Can a thought think? Can a thought be aware? Can a thought know this or that? It can't. So there's thinking. So I must be the thinking itself. What about seeing? I'm seeing you, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. But can the thought I see? Seeing is happening. It's happening with each and every one of you. The thought comes up, I see. But can the thought I see? Try it out. I am aware, I feel, I taste, I touch, I smell. So the thinker is a seeming reality, but the thought I think cannot think. So thinking is what is happening right now. You are thinking, you are seeing, you are feeling, tasting and smelling. All this activity is going on in the ing, thinking, seeing. I think, I see, I feel, I taste, I touch, I smell as a sense of separation. You've separated it into the dualistic belief that there's me and other than me. And we get lost back in the concepts. And that causes, because there's a separate belief in the separation, that's only that separate me or I can be unhappy. Because it's believed to be the self. Wei Wu told us a couple of centuries ago, why are you unhappy? And he gives the answer, because everything you say, everything you do, everything you think, everything you feel, everything you taste is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. We've got their idea that I am the self. They tell you in the scriptures there is self. But they don't say it's a personal self. They tell you it is the absolute self. The one self that patterns, shapes and forms, experiences and expressing and everything. The Atman self, or the God self, the Brahman self. But we've got the idea of the personal self. But how can there be a personal self when there's no person? So you see, you wonder why we're getting into trouble. We're functioning from the wrong perspective. We're functioning from the belief that there's something here that has power of itself. And it is that one self that is the power, it is the life, it is the very being of it. not the person. The person, as they tell you in the scriptures, is not the reality. It's just a conceptual idea. So the call is to be what you are. I am that. Absolute reality. I'm not a person. I'm not an individual. I'm not a separate entity. I am that life, that truth, that essence. As Christ told you, I am the way, the truth and the life. Not the thought I am, but that essence. So people thought he was talking about himself and miss out on what he's saying. He's not saying he himself was, but the same as you can say. That I amness is there. What are you going to relate it to if you look at it? You're going to keep relating it to the person, me, Bob, that's fearful, that's unhappy, that's anxious, that gets all these shame, remorse, guilt and all these sensations on it? Or am I going to relate that was the absolute, the pure intelligence energy, which is the love, the heartfelt being, the godliness, if you like, or whatever label you like to put on it, except the personal. Be what you are, not what you pretend or believe yourself to be. So away you go, get into it.
Good work. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome to those who came later and those who are online with us. 21 right now, it's been 25. And no questions, only few good morning messages. Good morning to the whole team, good morning to everyone, and dear ones. So that means no online community is entertaining us. That means we invite you to share, ask questions, tell us your version, tell us what sits right with you, what causes resistance, anything that comes up and obscures that clarity of being. Because the clarity of being is always there. I mean, there is no one who is not aware of their being or presence. It's just that sometimes that obviousness of presence is obscured by ideas, that it should be different, it should feel different. The enlightenment is something that I will experience, but not now, in the future. Those type of ideas are obscuring the obviousness of presence, and we are inviting you to look at them and see if they're true. See if the I can be found. See if the future can be found. See if that can be experienced. See what is experienced without the thinking. What's the direct experience without the clouding it of beliefs? Michael, please.
I'll just kick it off because apparently last week I spoke and I'd kind of forgotten that, so that was interesting. But Anita asked me, how was your week? And I had to stop and think, and it's a bit vague. And when I explained it was okay, she said, you're much better than the week before. And I go, why? I'd totally forgotten. So it's just interesting that hanging on to it doesn't seem to be there as much. It does seem like it was a long time ago, at whatever I said last week. I had to really dig to get that back, like even the memory of it.
Beautiful.
So it's just very interesting. I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, thank you for that sharing, because we actually had a discussion, and I don't know if you were part of it, but as we go after the meeting, we go and have lunch together. There was quite a few people who were deeply grateful for what you have said, because they could so relate to it. Later on we had one-on-one meetings with, or two-on-two, whatever, and they also said that you just articulated in a crystal way what was sitting there in them, and they couldn't actually put it in words. So yeah, thank you for that. And the postscriptum, that it doesn't hang around anymore, that's even better. That's a nice kind of a cherry on the cake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bob. You just said some. How about now?
You have to speak up with your voice.
Oh, yeah.
This is for online community.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned something that just I'm trying to understand. So you said, what if what you thinking is itself a thought? Is that what you...
What she said.
No, if the thinker, the idea
thinker.
I think, is not the I that is doing the thinking, but is another thought. The thought that says I think. The thought. That's the content of the thought. There's no thinker in that. The assumption is that there is I that does the thinking.
Yes.
But the truth is, there is no I that does the thinking. It's just the thought which says I think. There's no one there. It's just the thought I think, like any other thought.
It's just a claiming. There's a claiming that you,
Yes.
there's a you that thinks.
I-
And there's thinking that seemingly in this illusion that happens. And there is no one here that's doing any thinking. So if you think you're thinking, well, what has to happen in order for a thought to occur? Doesn't there have to be like a synaptic event in the brain, right? A synapse fires, and then the thought, that's actually what has to happen. So are you firing the synapses, or does that just happen?
So I
Oh, God.
notice when I meditate...
Oh, are you meditating?
No, well, okay, let's just use the word. So the thoughts are generated not by me. It's very clear
Yeah.
that the thoughts are not generated by me.
Yes.
It took a while to get there, but I could see it clearly. But
So what-
I
yeah, what's
still,
the question?
I still didn't understand what you said. Like,
Okay,
what?
so you say the thoughts are not generated by you.
Yes.
So what was the question that you had about what Bob was saying? That, if the thought I think is not the thinker of the thought, it's just a thought. There is no I that generated that thought.
Okay.
Yes, so this is what you already understand, right? You understand that.
I don't know why this simple thing just so vague to me. Very vague. Like,
But if you look at another functioning in the body, growing the hair, are you growing your hair?
no.
But you can say, oh yeah, I'm growing my hair. I just cut them short, but now I'm going to grow them long.
Yes.
As if you were growing it.
Yes.
So now the same way, the hair grows of its own. Seeing happens of its own. Thinking happens of its own. Of course, your hair will be healthier if you eat healthier and so on and so forth. And your thoughts will be healthier if you are happy. And the seeing, this is all interactive. It's not separated from whatever is happening outside. But the same way as you don't grow your hair, you don't think your thoughts. So what is the I doing at all? Is it even necessary to be there? Maybe it is completely redundant. Hair grow of its own, thoughts come up of its own, seeing happens of its own. Breathing happens of its own. So the I doesn't really have any job. The only job it does is take credit for what nature is already doing.
So that sentence that Bob said was, what if, sorry, I'm just trying to remember, what if when you think, sorry, what did he say again?
What if the thought I think is not the thinker?
What if the thought I think is
It's not the thinker of the thought. What if that I is
Yeah.
not thinking the thought? It only says I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
but it really doesn't think.
Right.
Yeah, it's a profound statement. What if the I in the I see doesn't do a seeing? Bob says, does the thought I can even see? The thought doesn't even have the eyes. The body has the eyes. The thought I see. The thought doesn't have a brain to think, doesn't have eyes to see. A thought is just a sound. It can't do anything.
So now I ask this question because while ago, like even a year ago nearly, it was very clear that I mean, in a moment, and it was more of an intellectual understanding than a realization that seeing is happening. I mean, it started with hearing, that there is no hearer.
Yeah.
It's only hearing. And then I could see that in seeing as well. There is no seer. It's only seeing. I mean, not if it wasn't realization. It was like a, simple,
Yeah, the
simple, like I was wondering why I couldn't see that before,
Yes.
right? So if that's the case, why I'm not realizing? What is stopping me to realize this? Like, is it because there is so much identification that I have to go through that, right?
Yes, because there is an idea of I. Like you realize that I can't see. Seeing is happening.
That's
that
right.
I can't grow the hair.
That's
Growing
right.
hair is happening.
So
But you still believe that I can get realized. How can that get realized if there's no one there? Realization is there when the I is not.
I get that. There is
Okay.
it's very simple that there is nothing in there, but I'm still so identified. What is its energy? Like, I don't know, what is it? Bad habit. So how do you get over that bad habit? Like,
By seeing that the habit is just a habit.
Yeah, can you give him a speaker?
thank you.
To reach an understanding, there has to be an experience of a direct experience of what's being understood. So that in this case, see if you can think a thought right now. See if you can think a thought, a single thought. Can you do it?
Seems I can.
Okay. Is that true?
No.
So that's a direct experience. You experience that you can't think a thought. Then the understanding changes naturally, without effort. So we need to have insights to eradicate the false knowledge that we've acquired, which is all based about me. And knowledge is actually ignorance. There's no difference in the ancient Indian text that says avidya and vidya, which is knowledge and ignorance, are the same. They don't say these things just for the fun of it. It's a deep understanding. And we need to have that understanding in ourselves. All of the things that you think about yourself and all the knowledge you've acquired is nothing but ignorance. And it's what gets you in trouble. So that has to be eliminated by investigating. Like Bob says, investigate that me and see if you can find it. Can you find the me? This me. You can't find it.
So every time identification happens, I just have to really look for that I, right?
Yep.
Every time,
Yep.
constantly.
Yep.
Who is
Whatever happens.
Who is identified? What is identification? What is identification about? It's about identity. What is my identity? I identify with other things to try and make this me real, but it's not real. It'll never be real. I get attached to people and loved ones and things, and I get upset if somebody steals my wallet or my car or whatever, but that's not my identity. What is my identity? It's that I am, the knowledge I am, which is common to all. But we're not used to living like that. It's all about me and, acquiring things and amassing things to make myself feel secure. But there is no security for the me because it's a fiction, a total, utter fiction. It's not popular knowledge. You won't read it in the newspaper or on 7 o'clock news. The me is a fiction.
Yep.
And all the suffering in the world is based on that. So can you think a thought? Are you an independent agent of awareness or consciousness that can think and do all these things. No, you're not. There's only consciousness. Consciousness is all there is. And consciousness does everything. There's no separate entity anywhere. Like the Buddha discovered emptiness. He said there's no self-nature anywhere, or something along those lines. So this idea of self, a separate personal self, is the illusion. It causes all the suffering. So it's simple. Investigate. Can I find this me? In your own space and time, in your own privacy, see if you can find this me, or do it right now. You can't find it because it's a fiction. It's a popular fiction that everyone believes in, and the world is full of suffering and wars and God knows what's going on, but it's an illusion. It's a complete illusion. We are all one essence appearing as apparent separate entities. And you need to know the essence of it, because you are the essence. I am is the knowledge. The knowledge I am is the essence of being. And being is silent. Being doesn't need language. So being is silent. You can sit with that silence and you can watch the mind and see. The mind is a movement. It can't stay still. You can meditate or whatever, but that mind has to move because it's life. It's moving. And if you sit in that silence, in the beingness, you can watch the mind and see its movement and know that you're not something that's identified with the mind. You can watch it as a witness and see what it does. And then you understand the mind. And then, as Nisargadatta says, the mind is a good servant, it's a bad master. If you are a slave to the mind, then you have suffering. But who is the sufferer? Sorry, that took over.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Sorry.
Anita.
I just want to say that the concept of me or I is rooted in the story of your life, which is rooted in a time span.
Can you speak up? Bob can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. The concept of I that most of us grow up with and things is rooted in time. It has a history. We were born then. This happened to us. This is what our identity attaches to. But if you investigate time, you'll see there's nothing but now. And that's a story of self that's rooted in a history which is no longer evident. It's not here anymore. So that's, and to me, the other thing that really quickly brings you into the now is the breath, because that happens right now. So, sometimes the mind's doing this, and the story and the habit of my story then, and then in the future I'm going to do that, and then this happened to me and that happened to me. That's just a story, because it's only the present moment that can actually exist. And here is where pure awareness exists. It's the only place it can exist. And, sometimes the mind's going like that. I find for me, straight into the body, the sensorial experience. And the breath, that brings you straight into the present moment. Stops all that silly story about me. Because that's a habit, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful. I think Chris wanted to say something.
Try and add to that. Just something that helped me with that I think kind of, because it's kind of like the pinnacle thing to get over. Everything else, being your hair growing or your body functioning, is kind of, you using your thoughts to comprehend that. And you can sort of, but getting over that final hurdle of realizing that, I think is a thought, that we are just a thinking process. For me, I sort of question, why did I think? If someone asks you, think something, and you sort of come up with a scenario or a memory or something, and you ask yourself, why did I think that particular thing? And you sort of explore the reason behind that thought, and you can't really find it. Like if I asked you to pick a movie, you might, run through a memory or recent movies you've seen or a movie that you really like, but it'll change your answer depending on what's happening in your body at the time, your environment. There's so many different factors which influence that choice that you feel like is a thought that you chose to think. But then you realize it just comes to you. that makes sense. Yeah, that really helped me. So yeah.
So, as Gilbert was saying, the whole society, we're all being conditioned to thinking that we're a separate entity. And you're right, Bob. You can't hear.
No, I can't hear.
Oh, is that
I
better?
don't hear anybody.
You must project.
Translate for us. You could translate sonically.
Carry on with that.
So the other aspect that I find that's being pointed to here is, well, we've explored the fact that we're not the thought. Then what? Or we're not doing. There's no separate I. Then what is it? What is it that is cognizing? What is it that is knowing? And that could be a struggle because we're continually using our mind. That's the habit, to use the mind to find that answer. And when that's exhausted, what is it? It's no thing, as Bob points to, the analogy of space, which is just an analogy. But to kind of have that insight, or to, in negation of the mind of the me, then you're left with, well, what am I? What is it that is cognizing? What is it that is doing the growing and the thinking and etc.? And you can't put a label on that. So it's resting and knowing that whatever is aware, and you can put a name on it, consciousness, emptiness, space, but they're not the actuality, as Bob clearly points out. So it's no thing that is doing the cognizing and the livingness. And to kind of just rest, or not even rest, but just to have everything else thrown out the window, you're left with nothing. You're left with empty space that is actually intelligent. That's the amazing thing. The emptiness is intelligent, is cognizing, is the life. And you can't really say that in terms of the mind. And but it's always the case. That is the thing. It is always has been the case. It's just the idea of a separate thought. The thinking process has caused the division, the seeming division. But in that empty space, the investigation has to be done to just sort of unravel all that. That's the, what can you say?
For me, it even goes a slight step further than that. So just the idea that there has to be something behind something doesn't even, seems to be a concept, pure and simple. Like why does there have to be something doing something? Why does there have to be a God operating the universe? Like, I just always thought they were redundant because they were just concepts, pure and simple. It's just a concept has arisen. Something must be there operating. Why? Why can't there just be what is there? Why do we need to add in that extra concept? It's extra, it's clearly...
Extra concept of creator.
Yeah, clearly it's a concept, right? So then somebody made it up. Well, it got made up, it appeared. This, extra, it just seems made up to me and redundant and a concept, pure and simple. So, it's just movement. So even like this idea of intelligence...
That's what I'm saying. It's non-conceptual.
Yeah, and to me, like even the idea of an intelligence there, to me, is another concept, pure and simple. Intelligence, why does there have to be an intelligence? And I don't feel that sense. I don't feel a sense of, and who, you know, maybe there is a sense of something there. Maybe there is an intelligence. Maybe that is all there. I just don't see it. You know, I just see non-void, and that's about it. And even that is a reflection. So a reflection pops up, a memory gets noticed, and the memory is that when, you know, there was a sitting here with the thoughts turned off, there was stuff coming, there was still stuff coming into the eyes, there was just still stuff here. So upon reflection, the concept pops up, oh, there's no void, there's no nothingness altogether. There does seem to be stuffness happening, or things here. You know, we're not just empty void and none of this. But that is a reflection of an image that occurred while I was sitting here with the thoughts off.
I didn't get that.
So basically, if the brain goes off, right, because it's, you know, the notion arises to stop thinking. Yeah, so I did that, and there was just like some images, right? No cognition, no analysis, no words, no phrases, nothing coming out. There was just picture of this. Mm-hmm. And then the reflection upon that picture occurs, because, you know, people are suggesting to do that. The universe suggests, you know, what was that? And so what was that? The notion, no void. There's no nothing here. Pops up as a concept, as just a phrase. Well, there's no nothing here. And reflection upon that is that was a bunch of words that seemed to be laden with some meaning popped up. There was certainly no little Tony saying, oh, what kind of concept shall I pop up next? So really, yeah, the idea that there's anything beyond, that there's anything at all, is just a concept of no void that pops up upon reflection of this image. But when the brain's off, it's just empty of everything.
Direct experiencing.
Yeah, there's just empty. Like, I can't even say anything. Like Bob says, you can't say anything at all. Like Bob says, you cannot say anything at all. So even the fact that saying that there's no void is a concept that comes up later to me.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Just a philosophical question. Did Descartes have it all wrong when he said, I think, therefore I am?
Yeah, backwards. Got it backwards.
Got one end of the stick.
Okay. Yeah, Martin?
Therefore I created.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, if you don't know what to say, I have people who are commenting online.
Okay, yeah.
We have about 40 people with us now.
Great.
So
Cool.
that's participation coming up, and then there is quite a few. Chandika says, thank you, I'm finally experiencing the state, hoping that state will last. Can you stay with us? We're going to go to the restaurant later, we can have a chat. Thank you. So Chandika says, thank you, I'm finally experiencing the state, hoping this state will last. And Serena answered to it, no state lasts. The only constant is the presence, the awareness. And Manju says, you are the knower of the state, no matter what state comes and goes. Yes, that's beautiful. And Julia, British Julia says, love that, Gilbert, no security as a me. It is a fiction. Absolutely. And Vivek says realization is that this world, body, are illusion, Maya. It is not the body, the formless me, awareness. I am not associated with anything, anyone, anybody, but just me, the mere presence. And we have over 40 people now. So did you want to speak, Martin?
Yep. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to say the same message that everyone's been saying, just with less words. There is no I. there is only life. And there's a thought, but there's no thinker of the thought. It's just all life making up bullshit. I do have an interesting story to share. So I was yarning to my dad the other day, and usually he's just asking me. He usually just talks to me, try and make himself feel better. But he actually shared something pretty, something that stuck in my memory. So I wanted to share it. So he's worked at a as a prison guard for 30 odd years, and they had a course the other day. They had a linguistics specialist come in and run a course. And anyway, long and short of it is he was teaching them the best way to give a message that can improve the outcome of a situation that they might have in the prison. So, for example, they've got someone on their stomach and they're on their back. What they say and how they say it changes the outcome of the event. And he was saying this linguistics person separated a message into three parts. You have the information, you have the tone, and you have the action. And anyway, long and short of it, the message or the information actually makes up less than 8%, apparently, of the message. And so that really stuck with me, because we're here trying to get the message through words when the words make up almost zero, almost nothing of the message. And it's that heart or that presence that's underlying the messages, which is the message. So it doesn't really matter what you say.
That's right.
It's more about where it comes from, I guess. And it'll always be right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is actually profound, because yes, that's the NLP really gives it in the numbers, and it gives a little demonstration in which it shows someone who is absolutely devastated, crying and saying, "Oh my God, I'm so happy, oh God." And what message do you get? Or someone who says, "Oh my God, I'm so sad."
Yeah.
And there you go. That is how the whole non-dual pointing works. It is more of the tuning into that underlying frequency of clarity that comes. You're going to say something, darling, now. Because it's that your clarity of 40 odd years plus years that brings that, We are all, there is a lot of seniority and clarity in this room, let's face it. A lot of people have beautiful understanding. But yes, he's got the seniority that beats us all together.
You're prior to words. First couple of years of your life, you had no words. You were before that. When we learn words, that's what we believe we are, the concept. Prior to mind. That's all words are in mind.
Sorry, finished. Direct experience has no thought. You can't use the mind to experience it. It's just direct experience.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I have something from Bradley, and I always look forward to reading what he writes. They are seekers, and then they are sailors. And that's in capital letters. They are seekers, and then there are sailors. The ship called I Think creates a bow wave called feeling, creating a current called emotion. How brilliant! Oh my goodness. How does the ship overcome its own bow wave? My goodness. Lovely. It stops. It stops. It puts down anchor and rises and falls with the swell. Oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This what an amazing poetry. And the metaphor that is so, yes, so on the spot. Just stop. Thank you, Bradley. That was beautiful. Now, anyone?
I just wanted to follow on from what you said, Marty, because I feel like that just absolutely nailed it in my mind. Because, yeah, sometimes the information's, I'm sitting here and like Bob is talking or Gilbert is talking, and it gets to the point where the information is actually not going in, but you're just like, feel like I'm just so in tune with what you're saying, but the actual information's not being processed. There's just, it's just like, it's almost like the mind has stopped enough to care about what's being said, and it's just so absorbed in the presence underneath what's being said.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you just articulated exactly what I hadn't realised was going on, that it's, yeah, the information doesn't matter sometimes, it's just that beautiful presence, yeah, underneath.
Makes up a very small amount of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The linguistics said.
No, I'm done. I was going to pass it to Pete.
Oh, sorry, Pete.
I saw a funny little video recently, and it's a ship and the Mayday call going out, and the message is, we're sinking, and the German submarine is close by, and it comes on and says, what are you thinking
about?
So the message can get garbled.
I think the existence of the self is often dependent on others, isn't it? Seeing other people, yeah. And I think that also that the sense of you is always going to be there. You're not going to lose that sense of me, are you? Now, to try and eradicate that's an impossibility. You can't do that. It's kind of like a good analogy is a light shining through a prism, or it instantaneously spreads into all the different patterns and forms, including you. You see, there's no light left, is there? You know, when the light shines through the prism, you get all the different colours and all the multiplicity and diversity of everybody here. It must include you. Okay, maybe that's a better way to look at it. That there's nobody's out here, to prove that you are not, or that you are a separate being. They're all here to demonstrate that you are the multiplicity and diversity of things. I don't know whether that helps or not, but it's certainly a big difference between. I think the Headless Way demonstrates this in some aspect. There's a big difference between seeing everything out there proving that you're separate, and seeing everything out there proving or being, if you like, the multiplicity and diversity of the one form, which in essence, without naming anything, becomes the simplicity of everything rising. You are then, instead of looking for the proof of separation out there, you are the thing that's responsible for everything just simply arising and falling, including the sense of you temporarily. You don't know who you are, right? Okay, you don't know what anything else is. You have an impression of what it is. Impressions come, impressions go. Now,
there's no white and coloured light, there's just light. So
yeah. Something along those lines, I don't know. Bloody hell, I'm talking.
Just quickly, I quite like a saying I heard recently that the universe, like an apple tree apples, the universe peoples, which for me kind of put in perspective just like a natural expression. As much as an apple tree making apples, the universe peoples, the universe musics, makes poetry, sort of just in the same manner. That kind of helped me, so.
Michael.
I was just thinking, Pete talked about the headless way. Might need to explain a little bit more for people who don't know. I think Douglas Harding came and saw Bob, didn't he? And he said, as he drove down from Sydney, what was it?
Oh, drove down from Queensland. He said, I swallowed Australia.
Swallowed Australia.
The car went past all those things and taken them out.
Yeah. Because the headless way has two things. It doesn't deny this or this. They both exist. So all the multiplicity exists. But when you point back, so you point out, you can point at any one thing in the room. When you point back at zero distance, go to zero distance. What's looking? It's just empty.
It has shape and form.
If you go back and look at what is looking, and so even the perimeter of what we see is just here. You can't see anything back there. It doesn't really exist. And if you look at science or quantum physics, that's what it says. You know, there's a probability of something, matter existing in a particular place, but until consciousness looks at it, it collapses the wave function and the particle's there. They also have the particles there and there, which is impossible to us, right? So it's kind of the same sort of thing, like everything's out there. So it doesn't deny it with the headless way. It just says, yes, that's all there, but this is what's looking. That's empty. It's just openness. And that's pure love because it's open to everything and anything. It doesn't reject anything. It just accepts everything. And it's just there.
When he was saying he swallowed the world, well, then as soon as things get here, they disappear.
Yeah, Douglas's headless way is interesting because it's not religious. It's not. It's lots of exercises just pointing at the fact that there is no separation. You know, that the wholeness is never separated. The universe, and whatever the whole is. You know, people talk about other universes, and that's just the intellect. You know, creating more diversity and complexity, but the truth is always simple. So the wholeness is never divided, but as a seeming separate entity, there's an interior space where the so-called separate entity lives, me, I, or whatever, and then there's the exterior, which is not me, but there's no separation. There is no separation. And the self-center, you can't find it. There is no self-center. It's an assumption, it's a story, it's a mythology, it's, it just goes on and on. So if you go looking in your own direct experiencing, in your own volition, in your own time, try and find that self-center. There is no self-center, and science will, any true and honest scientist, there aren't many around, will say that there is no static point anywhere in the universe. So if there's no static point anywhere in the universe, what is the self-center? It can't be static, it can't be still or permanent. It has to move, and it's a movement, and everything is a movement, everything is energy. And you better get used to it because, you can't people sit and meditate. I've got friends who I hardly ever see now because they're always meditating. They've been doing it for, it's not a joke. I ring up and his wife says, oh, sorry, he's meditating.
Wonderful.
What is achieved? What is achieved? Stillness. There's more stillness around than there is movement. So there's more silence than there is sound. So you can't create more silence. You can't create more stillness. But sit with that beingness, which is relatively still and calm, and observe this movement of mind and the tricks that it seemingly gets up to that makes us suffer. The me is a fiction, and you can deny it as much as you want. There are teachers around who say you don't exist. Well, that's utter nonsense. Who are they talking to?
Yeah.
I'm talking to a non-existent person. Ultimately, it might be true, but it's nonsense. I am existence itself. You are existence itself. There's no separation. It's only the mind that seemingly divides the wholeness, the unity, into multiplicity through words. And Bob points this out constantly. It's the words, you divide everything up, you label everything, and then, in the appearance, everything is separation. That bottle sitting on the carpet is not the carpet. The carpet is not the bottle. That's the appearance. But in essence, everything is the one essence, expressing and appearing as everything. So, wouldn't it be wise to investigate the self-centre and really see whether it exists or it doesn't exist? And maybe, just maybe, in discovering that it doesn't exist, there will be a relaxation. And all that angst, years of suffering and searching will dissolve on its own, just in seeing that this believed in entity does not exist. It's easy to talk about and seemingly very difficult to do, but it's actually effortless because the seeing is spontaneously happening. You're not doing the seeing. The hearing is spontaneously happening. You're not doing the hearing. So to recognise just those simple things, you would think there would be a humbleness that comes. It's like, I'm not doing all that. I'm not beating the heart. I'm not sending the blood around the body. I'm not doing the breathing. People have breathing exercises to put you into some trance state. So what? You're in a trance and then the trance goes. The waking state happens for 16 hours a day. And then there's the sleep state, deep sleep state. All these states are recycled because we live on a planet that spins around 24 hours, and we can't stay awake or you can't be in the waking state permanently. So the body needs to rest. There's sleep state, the blissful sleep. People say, I had a blissful sleep. Well, how do you know? Because the awareness is there, but the consciousness is abating, it's resting. So, but the awareness is timeless. It has no beginning or any end. So birth and death are just something that appears upon the awakening, or the wakefulness, or the awareness, or whatever labels you want to put on it. Blah, 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 blah.
Julia.
Julia.
I have a favorite story. It's all a story, but it points to the insanity existing within this idea of whatever it is believed this I or this me is believed to be. So if you have a disorder, something like bipolar disorder, one of the symptoms is called a delusion of grandeur. It's a weird thing because I am grand. But so is my dog shit. So there's all that. You're that too. The thing is, I think that there's a thinking that there's something or someone that's more grand than something else, or less grand, actually. So it's or I'm not as grand as you. You know what I mean? So there's a believing that there's a me that can be more grand. That's what they mean by the delusion of grandeur. They didn't seem to have the delusion of I'm a piece of crap, but that's still a delusion, right? So there was a manic episode that seemed to happen in this mind, in the story. And during the manic episode, there was somehow there was a believing for a moment that what I am is, I am the reincarnation of Eve and Mary. Hey, can you prove that I'm not? You know what I mean? No, actually, I can. But let me get to that point. I'll get to that. All right. So there was a buying into the reincarnation of Eve and Mary, right? And then there was also a buying into I am queen of the universe. And these are the delusions during this manic episode. But they took my precious from me. And I had a moment just sitting on the bed in the hospital. And this thought arose. Right. Well, if the false cannot stand up to investigation, you shouldn't have a problem if you're, believe what you're saying is true. You're the queen of the universe. Let's take a look. In this moment, without referring to a illusory me or a past and future, which I've come to see only this is real, without a thought, can you find the one who can be the reincarnation of anything or anyone or the queen of anything? And there was proven no reincarnation. So I couldn't it couldn't be bought into, And what was interesting, I like this story, but yeah, I couldn't buy into it. And it was that day, earlier that day, I'd been walking buck naked over to my neighbor's house, telling her that Tony Robbins is going to fly me and my husband in a helicopter and we're going to ride Air Force One to the Vatican. You want to come, I mean, I was really, earlier that day. And then my husband, who's known me for 17 years, he could see, because there was no more believing in that, oh yeah. All the mental, it started to slow down and it was relaxing. And I never took a pill, by the way. I never took a pill. Except, when I did one day, one. That's not, you ask any doctor, that's not going to do it. But anyway, that's my story. And I like this story because I think it's kind of miraculous that just the seeing of the bullshit, even in the midst of a complete psychotic, you know what I mean? But that is, I think Krishnamurti, I was hearing him talk about it once, really. He was talking to some psychologists or whatever, and it's really, he was saying, yeah, it's the me, this idea of me. And there was absolutely a believing in a me in that moment, and that, I suppose, could happen again. So if it ever happened again, you guys know, just the thing to ask is, right, can you find the one who can give a shit, who can be anything? Yeah, okay, it's just me. Thank you.
There is Tony behind you. Tony. Tony wanted to speak.
Okay. I might forget it, but I might not. Yes, just reflecting on what Michael was saying about when you look in this sort of emptiness, which is, and also Gilbert's stillness. But for me, it's kind of going underneath is still, but sometimes there's a separation when seeing those two things as well. So it's really just a spate of thinking that there's a second part of what's going on that is empty inside or still underneath. And when the tap of thinking is actually off, those two things aren't there either. And so in a way, there's more of a sensation of subtle satisfaction or somewhat fullness, which I think goes away when there's a reflection of the emptiness defined as emptiness inside or stillness underneath, and there's a separation there, and I think that subtle satisfaction goes away when that separation is happening.
Beautiful. Peter, and then Michael, and then we...
Michael.
Did you want...
No, I just thought that stillness isn't a kind of feeling, empty also?
Yes.
Somehow. I have a separate... for me, it's more of a separate one. It's more just like a deep dive. It's almost a sense of going right under, and it's very kind of still down there. And then everything else seems to be superfluous, although it's still kind of there. That's just what I was describing.
Thank you.
What's wrong with right now if you don't put a thought to it? If there's no thinking.
Lovely. Did Michael want to speak? Or did you want to say? No? Okay, I have a couple of comments from Peter. Peter?
All right, Sometimes I don't speak, or rather I don't speak, but I don't sleep is the word I'm looking for. Go. I don't sleep very well. I get up and I walk around and then I start to bake pastries. And I guess that's the baking state. Not in the waking state, I get in the baking state. And everything gets answered there.
Peter's baked. I have something to say, I guess, for tomorrow. Come join us tomorrow online on Zoom. If you're in the U.S. time zone, it's just for you guys, really. Like, not just for you, anybody actually wants to join us, but it's ideal for Americans and people in that U.S. time zone because, like, right now is a decent time. But we have Tuesday and Thursday Zoom meetings as well, and that's 7:30 p.m., which is like 2:30 in America in the morning. So yeah. Come tomorrow if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a couple of comments here from our online community. JB says, what an amazing meeting, thank you all. And Linda says, you as a person don't exist. I think it was when Gilbert was talking about some other teachers, which was quite fun and lucid. Now, Giotti says, me, quote unquote, like George Constanza in one of the Seinfeld episodes where he just pretended to have a job. And Ram commenting on it, when he was an architect of a marine biologist. Yeah, I don't know. We probably don't know the TV show, but whoever does, that's quite a few laughter about it. So that's a good accent to just wrap it up. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.